Good morning, everybody. We are live from NAB 2014. I want to thank our friends at TerraDeck. We're at the palatial TerraDeck Studios in the middle of Central Hall in the Las Vegas Convention Center, NAB 2014. The topic of our class this morning, our session this morning, is the evolution of IMAG. Mm-hmm. And our guests are Todd Elliott, is Technical Arts Director at Willow Creek Community Church in Chicago.
Yep.
And he's also the host of a blog called First In, Last Out, which you can reach at toddelliott.net.
Yep, correct.
Elliott with two T's.
Two T's,
yeah.
Two L's and two T's, yeah.
Okay. And Mike Sessler is Technical Arts Director at Coast Hills Community Church in Aliso Viejo, California. It's Orange County.
Yep.
Southern Orange County.
Yep.
Lovely. So Mike is also the host of a blog called Church Tech Arts, and it's churchtecharts.org.
Org, yes.
So it occurs to me, guys, who've all been to NAB before, what is it that you've seen or learned at NAB in previous years that's had an effect on how you guys do video production at your church? Todd, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I would say for us, it's a chance to actually touch gear and to ask questions of professionals. A lot of times in our market, we can get a piece of equipment to try, but we don't necessarily have the expert to go with it. And so to be able to come and see, okay, this is, like for us, we're looking at tripods this year. And so let's see them, touch them, mess with them. They're all here. It's a chance to get a wide range to see what's out there. And so I would say for us, that's the main reason we come, to actually touch and play with things. Also, just to see what's new out there. So, I know 4K is kind of the thing this year. I doubt that we'll do anything with that, but just to understand where is the technology going, what can we do to set ourselves up for the future. So, I mean, that it's been real helpful to come out for those types of things.
Yeah, I would echo all of that and add to it. I think the ability to talk to the manufacturers is great, because we just had a conversation out here about a product that has great potential in the house of worship market, but maybe doesn't have one key feature that we would need that's very specific to the house of worship market. So being able to talk to the manufacturers, the engineers, the guys that actually write the code and build the parts is a great way to see specific features incorporated into upcoming versions of the product. And I've seen that happen over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been here. I'll talk to a manufacturer and say, man, it would be great if it did this. And then in 6 months to see a firmware update that has that feature to it.
Right.
So that's been great. And I think the ability to interact with other people. We always run into fellow church tech director guys here, and it always comes up, well, hey, how are you doing this? How are you solving this problem? And somebody's got an idea that I've never thought of before, or a product that they mentioned that I've never heard of, and then I can go look at it, I can go talk about it, and see if that's going to work. And sometimes it's a really mundane thing, like, I found buried over here in North Hall last year, I think it was, this little product called TechFlex F6. It's a split loom braided kind of sleeve that you put on cables. Super low tech, nothing special about it, except it's allowed us to incredibly clean up our stage, because now we can make custom bundled cables that are exactly what we need, and they're nice and neat, and they lay out nice.
So you find solutions to problems that you
Absolutely.
didn't even know that you had.
Yeah, and sometimes it's those. Sometimes it's something I've been looking for a long time, and there it is. Finally found it. So yeah, it's a cornucopia of stuff, and every year it's different.
Does somebody pay you to say that word?
No, I try to work that into every conversation. As much
That's a good word.
Yeah.
I mean, I would maybe just real quickly, coming to NAB is a great opportunity to connect with other church technical artists.
It's a networking event as well.
Absolutely.
So I know, like the CTLN online group is having a meetup tomorrow night at the MGM Grand. So we're just having dinner together. It's a chance to rub shoulders with people that are in your industry, for lack of a better word.
We have over 100 people.
Yeah,
so
it's a great chance to commiserate or identify with each other, because we're all kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. Encourage.
Yeah.
So Todd, you mentioned earlier 4K. So that's sort of it's cutting edge for the church market, maybe not for the average NAB attendee, being a full-time professional video producer or a producer or a network or a television station. How far out do you think we are in churches starting to acquire in 4K or archive in 4K?
Yeah, I think I don't think we're very far away from acquiring in 4K. I mean, I think that is something that's
some churches are already
attainable.
doing it.
We acquire in 4K, but we're not broadcasting it. We're not playing it back in 4K. I mean, I think that's where that's where I'm interested to see where does 4K go, because right now our displays, we have no 4K displays. Even in for our topic today, IMAG. How much resolution do you need for it to, like, if I'm 30 feet away from a screen, am I even going to notice if it's 4K or 720? So I'm interested to see where that's going. It feels like a long way off.
It does.
When I started doing some just online research, there's only one live production truck in the world that does that's 4K. And so understanding why is that, and will there be more, or it feels a long way off for most churches. But I think the infrastructure, it's all bandwidth now.
Right.
And so for us, we're talking about upgrading to a fiber optic backbone, and so will it give us the ability to do 4K in the future or not? Some of those questions is what I'm looking for, more than trying to solve the 4K problem right now.
Yeah.
Well, we had to pick this topic and let our friends at Teradek know what we were going to be talking about a month or more ago.
Okay.
As we got closer to the event, it occurred to me that maybe we should have actually named our discussion this morning something different. We should have called it the evolution of video production in the church, as opposed to just IMAG, which sort of communicates primarily for live display, where there's so much else going on. Mike, would you tell us a little bit about the video production process at Coast Hills? Some of which would go to IMAG, some of it would be used for other purposes.
Yeah.
Take us through what you're doing now and maybe where that's evolved from.
Yeah, it's really interesting. As a church, we've been on a journey like in and out of video for the last probably 10 or 12 years. We've always had a thread of doing video. Before I got there, we actually had 5 people on staff whose sole job it was to create video for the weekend service.
And this was how long ago?
This was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So just before I got there, all those folks were let go, and we stopped really doing a lot of pre-produced video packages for the service, and we pretty much went strictly to live. We're starting to get back to more of the produced video stuff. And I don't know that our church is typical necessarily, because I think a lot of churches have continued to ramp up and do more and more produced video stuff that fits into the service, whether it's a series bumper, a sermon opener, or a story video, or anything like that. I think a lot of churches are doing more and more production. We've backpedaled from that. We're starting to go back into it now. We've held the thread of IMAG for about the last probably 10 or 12 years or so. And come the spring, when we redo our auditorium, we're going to eliminate IMAG. We will still be doing live video, but it will all be for, I'm calling it broadcast for lack of a better word. Really, it's going to go to the TVs in the lobby, in the cry room, the mother's room. It's going to be streamed out on the internet, though not live. We're still not doing live. We've made the decision intentionally to not do live right now, but it is archived within 12 hours of the service.
And the room is how big?
Room is about 1,100 seats right now. We're actually shrinking our room. We went from about 1,300 seats. We're shrinking it down to just over 1,000, I think, is what it'll seat when we're done.
And could you describe the room? Is it
it's
primarily
box.
A square room?
It's really a box. Yeah, it's almost a cube, really. It's about 110 feet wide by 100 feet deep, and about a 35-foot ceiling all the way to the roof deck. So it's just a big box. So even in the back corners, we've brought the stage down and out. We've actually brought our pastor almost 12 feet closer into the audience than he was on the original stage. So it's gotten to the point where the furthest seat away is only about 70 feet. And we've just felt that given our room, our layout, the screens were distracting, and the pastoral staff just didn't like.
Did it have to do with angles?
Part of it had to do with the angles. The original locations of the screen were horrible. Probably, aside from putting them on the back wall, we're probably about the worst spot you could put them. So you had the choice of looking here at the pastor or up here at the screen, and it was just not good. I offered to put 2 screens down over the stage when we did the remodel, and they decided no, we're going to do a single center screen. We'll have the ability to do IMAG if we want to. So we may find we do it during the message, just to make sure the pastor's facial expressions and that are seen. So for us, it's all going to be about flexibility. Being able to do IMAG when we want to, but just graphics when we don't, and having a system that makes it real easy to do that.
So how is the infrastructure changing?
We've gone from a strictly composite video to all SGI. We decided not to do fiber at this time just because of the cost. It's significantly more expensive, and so I'm basically pulling in cable that can do 3G SDI. So, we can do 1080p if we want to. Like Todd said earlier, I don't know if we need 4K IMAG. I mean, it's a lot of bandwidth, it's a lot of storage, it's a lot of cost, it's a lot of stuff for not a lot of benefit when the nearest person is going to be 50 feet away from the screen. Right now we're up converting standard def cameras to high def, and it looks great. From an IMAG's perspective, it looks fine. So we'll probably stick with, I think we'll probably top out at 1080, probably 1080i for at least the next 5 to 7 years. I just don't see a reason to go beyond that.
Todd, tell us about the evolution of IMAG or video production at Willow Creek.
Yeah, so we've been doing IMAG for quite some time, probably back into the 80s, maybe early 90s. And for us, it was really a function of, we had many seats that couldn't see the stage or had limited viewing. So the IMAG really helped their experience feel connected to what was going on.
Tell us a little bit about the room. It's 9-10 years old now?
So now we're in 7,000 seat auditorium. There's really no bad seat. Our architect and Acoustic Dimensions designed the room, and they did a great job of making every seat feel intimate. But still, at the end of the day, I can be 90 feet away, but also 50 feet above the stage. And so for us, IMAG really is a little more necessary because I can't see facial expressions just from physical distance. So for us, we're trying to, how do we make the service better by using it versus having it be distracting, like the shots are too close, and it's something that it's really been evolving the last few years, just what kind of shots work, what kinds of shots don't. Are we doing this to magnify what's on stage, which is where the term IMAG comes from, or do we want it to feel more like a broadcast mix, which is more wide shots? And we have a jib that those shots don't typically show up in IMAG, but we've been using them more and more. And so we haven't really solved the problem. I guess maybe not even a problem to solve, but we're always experimenting with what does it mean to do IMAG well, so that people feel more connected instead of more distracted by the shots that we're choosing.
Do you do a different switch for your IMAG and then the stream or the broadcast?
No, right now they're the same. Okay. The only time that we separate those out is when we do the Leadership Summit. We kind of switch our brains to, we do a broadcast mix, and then we add a little bit in to the IMAG. Where I think in the earlier days of the summit, we used to do the IMAG feed and then figure out how to make it more of a broadcast feel. Now we sort of reversed that, because the Leadership Summit's a little bit different in that we tell the audience in the room, you're the broadcast audience. I mean, it's a giant audience to be in a studio, but so that we can get away with a little bit different kind of IMAG experience.
So what other sorts of content are you producing throughout an average week?
Yeah, so on a normal weekend, I mean, even just this week, I think there were 3 or 4 produced videos that were produced by our team. And so, a lot of those are shot on the DSLR, kind of in 4K, prime lenses, that whole thing, and then played back in our services. So for us, we find it's a lot of times to do an announcement type thing is we can do a better job on video, or even telling somebody's story, because we can kind of condense it and make it the most impactful. But yeah, we still do a lot of video creation, and we've done a little bit similar to you. We had a giant video team, and maybe 7-8 years ago, and now it's down to two people, but the amount of videos we did went down, but now it's sort of ramping back up. So we're trying to play catch up on how do we keep up with the demand for more video. So
a lot of churches are launch as a portable church, or a church is growing through the multi-site strategy, and there's kind of a tension there on whether or not they should do IMAG.
Yeah.
So do you have advice for churches that are taking that approach? Maybe just dabbling in it, or strategizing on what they may be doing in a couple of years, for advice on infrastructure, or whether even you need to do it or not. Some churches, as we know, do it because they think they have to.
Yeah.
And there may or may not be sound reasons for actually doing that. Mm-hmm. Mike, would you go first?
Yeah, I always advise churches not to do it until you absolutely have to. Because the level of complexity, the cost, the staffing that you have to have in place to do video. I mean, audio is one thing. Audio is expensive, but once it's there, one person can run it, right? But if you do IMAG, you need a minimum of 3, because you need a director and 2 camera people. And to do a good job, you probably need 4 camera people maybe, and then you start adding up into that, and then you get into 4 cameras, now you really need a shader to do that right. So, I mean, it is a lot of work and a lot of staffing. And what's the number one thing we hear from tech directors all the time? How do I get more volunteers? So, if you're trying
have
to
more opportunities for them to serve.
Exactly, right. Here's
let's start IMAG. Yeah.
Let's start IMAG so we can create more positions that we have to staff every week. That's awesome. But no, I think a lot of churches do it. And I was at a church last fall visiting. It's a small room. It seats 500 people. The furthest seat from the speaker is 40 feet away, and yet there are 2 screens up on the sides doing IMAG, and it was awful. I mean, it was distracting. They weren't doing it well.
We've heard stories of churches that decide, okay, we want to attract a younger audience.
Yeah.
So let's throw some IMAG up.
Yeah.
And
I don't think
it's
IMAG
putting
is
the cart
answer.
before the horse. Is really.
Yeah. I mean, I would say everything you said, and when video is not done well, it is the most distracting thing.
Really is.
That we do.
Yeah.
I mean, if lighting isn't exactly right, I think most people can get over it.
Yeah.
Audio, people notice when things aren't exactly right, but if the camera's pointed at the wrong thing, or not keeping up with somebody moving around, I mean, it's the fastest way to disconnect people from what's actually going on in the room.
Yeah.
And so it requires so much rehearsal time, and just that team really has to be on the ball, or else it's more of a hindrance, I think, than a help. And so if your room's small enough, I would say don't do it. Mm-hmm. I guess I was thinking too, coming over here, that there's something about IMAG that creates a vibe in the space that I could imagine that there would be reasons to do it from that standpoint. If you felt like, hey, we like kind of the energy we get from having something like that in the room, would maybe be a reason if you're in a smaller venue to do it.
Yeah.
But then I would think too, if I were the pastor of a small congregation and nobody's actually looking at me when I'm talking, they're all looking, to the sides, I think that would be really distracting, and I feel like I couldn't connect.
Yeah.
And you're you're losing an intimate atmosphere by having these giant screens in a small room.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you had mentioned something when we talked just before the event about the trend away from IMAG.
Yeah.
It's even, and your church is an example.
Yeah.
What's driving that?
I think it's the realization that you don't need it. Again, I think a lot of churches went into IMAG because the pastor went to a conference at a big church and there was IMAG, and so therefore we come back and, my gosh, we got to be relevant. We got to do IMAG. We have to have it. It's important. And then I think after doing it for a couple of years, you realize Well, it can be good, but again, in a lot of the smaller rooms, it can be distracting. It's hard to staff, and if it's not done well,
so what would you consider a relative threshold that qualifies a small room?
It's kind of hard to say, but I generally shoot around 1,000.
Right.
And if I think below 1,000 seats, it's hard for me to justify the need for IMAG. Once you get over 1,000 seats, depending on how the room is laid out, your room is 1,700, and you're kind of on the threshold of it from a distance standpoint because of the way the room is laid out. Todd's room, obviously, 7,000 seats, you have to have IMAG. It's huge. 3,000-4,000 seats, you probably really need IMAG to communicate that.
I would say too, the one thing I noticed, we do these youth camps that happen usually at a conference center. And so we had like 1,000 middle schoolers in a hotel ballroom. Yeah. And the distance isn't bad to the back row, but it's flat.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep the people in the back rows engaged, you really need something to hold
keep
their
middle
attention.
schoolers engaged.
Especially middle schoolers.
Yeah.
But I think even I was at a church that was around 1,500 seats, and the back row wasn't so far away, but because it was flat floor, now I'm like, I'm having to look over people. Maybe I don't even have a great view to the stage.
Yeah.
I could see you needing it for that reason.
Yeah.
So I think it depends. Didn't we decide that was going to be our answer to every question? It just depends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Case by case.
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank our friends at TerraDeck for giving us the opportunity to use this studio. I wish you could see what we can see. It's absolutely fabulous.
Cool.
Tens of thousands of people walking by outside the studio here. Some of us waving and making obscene gestures. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, I'd invite you to join us again when the subject will be streaming technologies for churches. So for now, I want to thank our guests, Todd Elliott from Willow Creek Church and Mike Sessler from Coast Hills Church. My name is Brian Blackmore. I'm the editor of Church Production Magazine. Until tomorrow.